Today's guest is a financial coach who is a self-made millionaire investor, founder of Fierce Feminine Finance, and an award-winning author. She teaches high-earning women how to close the gap between what they make and what they actually keep. She's been featured on Fox, ABC, and New York Weekly, and has guided 7 women to their first million and helped thousands of women build strong financial foundations. I am so excited to have her here today. Look, we already know the ultimate answer is 42. And today we're going to find out from Sarah Nadler what the ultimate question we should be asking in our business is. What's up, everybody? Michael Johnson here with the 42 podcast, where we already know the answer and we're on a quest to find the ultimate question. I'm excited you're here with me today as we explore the ultimate question with another amazing expert and business owner. Today, we have Sarah Nadler joining us on the show. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited for you to be here, and welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I have always been a huge fan of the book and the movies. So the idea of your podcast, it fascinates me.
I love it. It's been so fun and such a fun journey to start seeking out this ultimate question. I'm excited to get to yours today, but we've got a little bit of a winding road and a journey to go on before we get there. So please share with us how you got here and how, this crazy road. I mean, holy cow, your story is amazing, and I can't wait for everybody to hear it.
Sure. So I was 30 years old, had zero savings, zero retirement, really no fallback plan, just a business that I loved and probably worked way too many hours on, which I'm sure you can relate. And, one day I just kind of woke up and was like, I'm going to work until the day I die if I don't change something, And so I went on this journey to try to understand finance and investing. And funny story, at the time, I was also doing some consulting for other women in business. And I then had a client who unfortunately passed away in the middle of my consulting program. And I had to watch the fallout as all her employees lost their jobs, her family lost their income, all her clients, some of her clients were left mid-projects, right? And I mean, imagine having to sue the survivors of your service provider because they passed away and you need your money back, those kinds of situations. And I went, wow, this is really a problem and no one's really talking about it. So I started learning more about finance and estate planning and what should actually be in place. How do we get our, financial ducks in a row? Started a blog and it took off. So that was kind of the beginning of my story, and the rest is sort of history.
Holy cow. So you started a blog. Usually people that love writing start blogs. So is that something you love to do, or was it just the thing to do at the time?
Yeah, I definitely am a writer. I have 8 published books.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, about to launch the next one, as a matter of fact. So Definitely a big writer for sure. But honestly, as much as I love writing, my passion is actually working one-on-one with people. So I think a lot of authors happen to be introverts. I'm just not one of them.
Well, the combination of the two is pretty interesting and allows you to do some pretty cool things. So, you went on that journey and you ended up in the financial and investment space and in the retirement planning and all this stuff that helps people keep the money that they earn, which is pretty cool. Tell me a little bit more about that and how you got into that area of expertise, because there's a little bit of a jump there.
Yeah. So again, I think it was really, I fell into it. I'm very self-taught, right? So I'd been a business owner most of my adult life. So
Sure.
As I was trying to learn, what am I supposed to know about finance myself to kind of get my own financials in place?
Right.
Again, I just had so many women who were asking me wow, how are you doing this? How are you doing this? And then eventually I was like, well, wait a minute.
Maybe
I should teach other people.
Right.
I feel like I fell into it. There's not a whole lot of strategy behind it in the beginning. It was just tell people what I know for free on a blog. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. How do you monetize a blog? And then that was a whole rabbit hole, as I'm
Oh
sure
my
you can
gosh.
imagine. And I took my consulting background and the blog topic, and it turned into Fierce Feminine Finance, the coaching firm.
That's cool. Tell me a little bit more about that and what you do now, and how you're helping people using that brand, and what you're doing with. I love the name because it's such a cool alliteration.
Thanks. Yeah. I think it was really born from the fact that, I've read a lot of investing books. I've gone on YouTube and tried to learn. And I've also bought masterminds, paid, high five figures to work with mentors. And
Right.
the commonality I was finding was they just speak such a foreign language of abbreviations and terminology. And it all just sounded so complex. And
Right.
also, it felt very, unsafe as a space as a woman. Like, just to give you one example, now that I have achieved the, amount of success I have so far, there's a long way to go still, but I sat down at a networking event not too long ago with happened to have on my right hand side the man who owns a finance firm, and I was like,
Right.
"Oh, cool! I'm in finance too." And he went, "Really?" Like, right, like 100% disbelieved me. And the next thing I know, he's telling a story to the guy next to him about how his 20-year-old daughter is trying to learn investing, and it's so cute that she's trying to learn about money. And I was just like, really? But those kinds of conversations happen all the time. And so it kind of was born again out of this necessity to make this topic I wanted to teach other women feel accessible and feel fun, and also not be like drowning in financial mumbo jumbo, right?
Right.
And so I just started to find really fun, easy analogies, ways to explain complex financial topics, that don't actually have to be as complex as the way they are taught. And the more
Absolutely.
I did it, the more fun we had. And, just last night I was on with I was about 115 women on this training with me, and we were playing investor bingo. It's like, how can we make this fun and approachable and easy and
Right.
still lots of money at the same time?
Right. And so important. And I feel like there's just this, I don't know, maybe we'll call it old money, and that mentality that it's not for everybody, and it's just not true. You just have to understand it and learn it, and it's awesome that you're bringing it to people in a way that is consumable, which I think there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't want that to be the case, but it should be. And I
I
think
agree.
that's pretty cool. uh, what a fun situation, and it sounds like an amazing group that you have and that you're working with, and hopefully some of our listeners will find their way to you later. I'm sure you'll give us a path, and how they can find their way to you. But
Absolutely.
that being said, everybody's waiting for your ultimate question. Now, for those listeners that are new to the show, we didn't spring this on Sarah. She's not having to decide right now. She's had some time to think about her ultimate question that she believes we should all be asking in our business. And so you've had some time to think about it and put it together. So what'd you come up with? What is your ultimate question that we should be asking in our business? Okay, let's take a quick break for a message from Business Choreography. A lot of business owners know events could help them, but they're guessing at the format. Should it be a webinar, a workshop, a masterclass, a challenge, a live training, a networking event? The answer depends on your business, your audience, and your offer, and the kind of conversation you want to create. That's why Business Choreography created the free event type field guide. It's designed to help experts, coaches, consultants, educators, speakers, and service providers start choosing the right kind of event instead of just guessing. Get it free at eventchoreo.com/field guide. That's eventchoreo.com/field guide. Now, back to the conversation.
So I think the ultimate question, from the lens of finance, of course,
Of course.
is, does it make sense to build my business as a retirement plan, or should I be investing in other assets?
Okay. All right. I love that. And what a crazy question. I mean, like, if you haven't asked this question, if you haven't thought about this, I mean, this feels, I mean, I can just imagine, like, it feels like you just jumped into the deep end of a swimming pool. Uh, like
Yeah.
it feels a little overwhelming. So how do we start to get past that point? Like, man, that sounds like a really big question to answer. So help me get through answering that question initially.
Yeah. So I think the precursor to that question, and really the starting point, the launch point to answering the question would be, other than 42, would be, do I want to retire at all? And I
Right.
think that's the first question, right? It's
Yeah.
like I can't even answer the question of how do I get there if I don't even know if I want to. Because there are a lot of business owners, myself included, who love what we do. And
Right.
like when we're old, gray, toothless, and someone's wiping our butt for us because we're so, we're still going to be trying our best to work in that because we love it so much, right?
Right.
And then you have the entrepreneurs who are like, no, I'm, clocking in, clocking out, even though it's my business. I don't do this for fun, right? Like my husband's a great example of that. He loves what he does, but is like putting on a hazmat suit and crawling through someone's sewage like what he does for fun. No, it's not. It's something that he does that he's very good at, and it makes him a lot of money, but it's not like a hobby or something, right? So I
Right.
think that's the first question you have to ask yourself is like, do I ever want to retire? And then if the answer is yes, now we go into the how. And it's up to you. I'm happy to, walk us through that whole process. But the bottom line is there's really two routes, right? You can either use your business as a retirement plan, and we have to then understand the mathematics of that to see if that works, or you need to be investing in something outside of your business that is going to give you the freedom that you want at the age that you're going to want it at.
Right. And what a pretty like deep question when you stop to think about the idea of whether you want to keep working or not. I think that's a great point. And I feel like we're one of the maybe first generation of humans that are starting to go, well, I think I want to keep working. Like I want to keep doing the thing I love. And like you said, for those people that are doing the things that they love. I mean, we a lot of us grew up with that. A lot of us grew up with this perspective of do something you love. And I think it was sort of not necessarily the Great Depression group of people. I think those were, my grandparents were kids at the end of that, and so then that next generation was really, I think, starting to teach and train the next generation to start to do things they love. So I think there's a lot of people, and maybe a lot of our listeners, because they are business owners, and so they set out to not only serve people, but when they realized they could serve people and do something they love, like it was a great fit. And I feel like those are probably our listeners. I don't know, you guys out there listening, you'll let us know, you'll let me know, maybe I'm wrong. But if you're doing something you love, then determining what that retirement plan is can almost feel counterproductive, like almost like it's a plan B. And as an entrepreneur, we're like, there is no plan B. There's only plan A, like burn
Yeah,
the boats, get there no matter what. Right. So,
right.
how do we address that? Because I think, still having and creating that is so important, but there's that little bit of like, no plan B.
Yeah. And again, I don't claim to have an answer for everybody in the path that they want to take. But I will say, first of all, on the subject of the history of retirement, the phrase retirement and this idea of retiring at 65 has only been around for a little over 100 years. Actually, prior to that, you fell into two or three classes of people. One of them was retired from the day they were born. That was like, the royalty, et cetera.
Right.
Like they were independently wealthy, or you were working class, right?
Right.
And there was no such thing as retirement for the working class until Ford came out with this concept of like, how do I retain my factory workers? And he actually launched this whole concept of like the pension and therefore people retiring. So it's actually this new idea that you might have to decide whether or not you want to work for the rest of your life or not. We actually are quite privileged to even be able to have that conversation, right?
Right.
That being said, I can only say that I look at business as a vehicle to a destination, not a destination in itself, right? And so when you look at your business, you have to ask yourself the question, like, do I want this vehicle to get me to a purpose-driven place, which means it's probably a mission that you're going to be on for the rest of your life because you actually are there to like serve others, and that is the whole purpose here, and it's something that you are deeply passionate about? Or is the mission something that you think is okay to pass on to others, and it's really not something that like in your heart of hearts is, driving you forward? And that's the end of the conversation. It's
Right.
not a matter of whether or not you can retire. It's a matter of what do you want, right? And
Right.
the very first step of my investing formula that I teach to women is called the feminine fortune investing formula, right? The very first step is your intention. We call it your
Right.
abundance resolution. Make the decision from a place of abundance and not scarcity mindset, not this like, well, I don't think I ever could, so I'll settle for blah. Like, that's not how we think, right? And two, be resolute about it. Just decide, this is what I want. Good. Now, how am I going to get there? For me, it's been a journey of gradual more and more and more time freedom. And that has been always my goal with my investment portfolio, whether it's my business, which is part of that portfolio, or the many other assets that are now in that portfolio as well. It's really just been a matter of how do I turn all of these things into little spouts, right? Turn all of them on so that they're flowing into my household, the income I need to be able to do whatever I want. And that's what we call a freedom-based portfolio. So there's different ways you can build your investment portfolio, right? Depending on what goal you have, which is why goal setting has to come first.
Right.
If you have the desire and motivation to continue working as long as you can, then there's really only a couple factors we have to think with to answer the ultimate question of, is my business that vehicle, right, to retirement, or do I need to be investing outside my business?
Right.
And if that's the goal, is I want to work as long as I can, then there's two factors I have to think with. One is, can my business get me there in the time frame I want it to, right? Like, we all know that almost every business starts with a hustle stage.
Yeah.
And if you're good enough at business, it gets to the sort of like phase 2 of, cool, now other people are running things and I'm just doing the part I love, right? But do you have the skill to get it there fast enough to meet your other life goals, right? And then number 2, I know we all hate to talk about plan B, but we have to. What if I don't get there? Period, right? Like, what if I pass away before then, just like my client did, right? We don't know what's going to happen. So will your family be okay? Will your kids be okay? Will your employees be okay? Will your clients be okay? How do we make sure that everyone's going to be okay no matter what? And so even though maybe your business could be the vehicle to get you where you want to go, having all your ducks in one basket, right, is not always the smartest route. And so it still might make sense to be investing outside the business. So at the end of the day, I think the answer to the question is, if you want to actually work forever, if that's truly what you want, to look at, and just, I like to journal on this with my clients, like, what does a dreamy ideal day look like when your business hits that point, right? What are you doing? Are you traveling? Are you working a few hours a day? How many hours? And what are you working on, right? And then look at the vehicle that is your business and decide, can it get me there in the time frame I want? Or does it make more sense for me to be investing in other things that would get me there more stably, quicker, more safely for the people around me, that's not reliant so much on yourself?
Yeah. Speak a little bit to the last part of your question, the investing in other assets. I feel like a lot of people, they're proficient and they're experts at the thing that they are experts at. And I feel like when the concept of investing in other assets comes up, it's like, oh man, I'm good at what I do, but that sounds scary. And it sounds a little like I have to get a new PhD to start investing in other assets. So talk a little bit towards that, because that part of the question, I feel like, can be pretty scary.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, for me at first, I had the same thought, right? I was raised in a family where, the wealthy are evil, eat the rich, right? And like, the finance industry is the source of all the evil on the planet kind of like idea, right? And so when I first started tackling this topic, I was very like anti stock market for sure. And my dad had done a little bit of real estate investing. So that's kind of where I started. I started house hacking. And I was like, ooh, having half my mortgage paid for by this silent person who lives downstairs is not that bad. Okay, maybe I'll try this, you know? And so I started like having other rentals and, you know, kind of expanded from there. It took me a long time to start tackling the stock market as a subject because it felt so intimidating. And I kind of had to get over some limiting beliefs around like wealthy people, right? If you're not willing to be something, you're probably not going to do what it takes to have it, right?
Right.
So that was kind of where it starts, is like what I now call like handling the money magnetism aspect. Like if you're not being magnetic to those opportunities or that level of wealth, you can't hold that level of wealth, you're never going to get there, right? All the strategy thrown at you in the world isn't going to get you there. That's really the first thing, is just getting over that fear or that false belief or whatever it is you think it is, and you're the stories you've been telling yourself about it. But even then, people have this concept that it takes a really long time. It's true, it does take a really long time if you're studying it on YouTube, or again, like you have to go to college and study for 4 years and all that. I have worked very hard to condense my program down, and we have achieved a point where in a 30-day challenge inside my program, you can learn everything you need to know to build a portfolio that will thrive in market chaos, not one that will only do well when the economy is doing well, but a portfolio that will actually thrive even when, or actually thrive even more when the market's going like this, or when it's going like this, right? That's, I think, the trick. Anybody can learn how to buy a stock. That's not hard. You can learn that part on YouTube, right? But how do I build what they call like an all-weather portfolio? That's actually the challenge. And these days, like I said, it takes about 30 days of, 10, 20 minutes a day to actually learn that part.
Not too bad. That's very manageable.
It's really not.
Okay, we also asked you to prepare another ultimate question, which is, what do you believe is the ultimate question we should be asking in our life? Obviously, a little more philosophical. So what did you come up with? What did you prepare for us?
This one was tough because I think a lot of people would disagree with me, especially the like YOLO crowd. So caveat here, you don't have to agree with me, but this to me is really the ultimate question. I think the question is, how can I be of the most service to the people I care the most about in a way that makes me feel the most fulfilled? And I think if you can answer that, your life will be happy, no matter how much money or little you have, no matter who you have in your life or who you don't. If you can answer that question, I think you're going to be pretty okay.
What led you to this being the question? I mean, you've had such an interesting journey, and what do you feel like was the moment when you thought, okay, yeah, that's the one, that's what we should do?
I feel like I could write a whole book to answer that question, but I'll give you the shortest version. When I was 18, my younger sister, who was 9 at the time, was diagnosed with cancer, and she actually passed in my arms a few months later. My parents were there, and it was me and my parents. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever been through, obviously, in my short life at that time. And I was really lost for 2 years. I just kind of coasted. I had built my first business by then, and my business was really tanking because I just couldn't keep my attention on marketing and sales, right? And so I eventually sold that business, went backpacking through Mexico by myself. Yeah, a little, gringa. I'm not really gringa. I'm Puerto Rican, but it doesn't really count when you can't speak Spanish, right? And, backpacking alone in Mexico. I don't recommend it if you're an 18-year-old girl, but I was fine, actually. And I had a friend who I had met years before, and I went and stayed with them. And I actually found church. I found, religion. And I was the youngest senior chaplain for Northern America for 4 or 5 years. And then after that, just traveled along. So for basically 10 years after the sale of my business, I just lived off of the savings and didn't work again. And I just traveled and volunteered. And it was giving back to people whose lives were far worse than, rich American girl princess growing up, right? Upper middle class. I wasn't wealthy, but I had,
Right.
we had stuff growing up.
Right.
Um, the hardest thing that ever happened to me was loss of my sister, but I met people who had been through way worse, and giving back to them and serving them and helping them recover from that and counseling them, and, religiously, or just, through talk, right? It really brought me back. It brought me back to life. And so that was really the moment when I realized that service to others can actually be very healing. So then, I ran out of money because I told you I didn't understand investing, right? So I didn't invest a dime. I just lived off my savings, which is really dumb, right? So eventually I started my second business, and, the rest is history. But I've believed that ever since. And, I can't tell you how many times I've been through hard things in my life, and there's that desire to just sit there and wallow in it, right? Like, you kind of feel like you deserve to be a little bit of a victim right now and nurture yourself. And again, forget everybody else. I should just me do you kind of like thing. And every single time I've just found myself even more miserable, even less fulfilled in life. And I think that it's not a matter of what happens to you, it's what you decide to do with what came your way, right? And so that really has become a guiding light in my life of just finding ways to uplift everyone, right? A rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that that really is where happiness lies. So that's been my experience.
I love it. On one end, you're teaching and coaching finance, you're teaching the ability to be able to maintain and sustain the money that you make. And, in one way it's talking about the riches. And then on the other end, when you're talking about your ultimate life question, it's about creating wealth. And the wealth comes from that fulfillment, and that fulfillment doesn't come from money. And
And I have to just say that, like, in 2018, I lost everything. I was, I hadn't worked in 10 years, right? I didn't have any money left. And I was like, what do I do now? And I went through a bad situation with a colleague that we won't talk about. And I ended up homeless for 2 weeks, living in a 1988 Toyota 4Runner truck, right? And again, I was like, how do I get myself in these crazy situations? But at that time, I sat down, I just wrote out like every single thing I wanted to have in my life. I was like, I'm going to rebuild my life from scratch. What do I actually want? And I was writing down things that to me at the time felt completely crazy. And this is coming from someone who'd already built a successful business and sold it. The numbers I was writing on that piece of paper and the lifestyle I was creating sounded totally insane as I was sitting there homeless, right?
Sure.
And yet a year later, I had done every single one of those things. So take it from a woman who has multiple times written down like her dreamiest, most wonderful lifestyle and then made it happen. Not once, that was the first time, but twice. I again made another list, and I've beat all of those things now too. I can tell you with certainty that having more money does not make you feel more fulfilled, right? When you have enough money that you can swipe without looking, and you can shop, and you can travel to Europe, and you can take 4 months off and do whatever the heck you want, you start to find that life actually feels very empty if you're not serving any basic purpose. And so that's why I really do believe that I am the right person to say that this is the ultimate question, because it's how can I be of service to others? That's what's going to make you feel fulfilled, not having more money.
Right. I love that. Catching it from both ends. Guys, if you've loved these questions, hopefully you've stopped, and don't forget this is a video. You can pause and rewind. You can go watch it again and listen. And I'd love to hear your comments on it. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And both Sarah and I will keep an eye on the comments, and we want to hear what your thoughts are. What is this question made brew up in your mind? And what have these questions made you think about? And what kind of answers have you come up with as you've thought about these questions? And again, put them in the comments. Let us hear. Let us be able to respond to you and engage with what you're thinking about, because that's part of the journey. The conversation and the thought is so important. And we are so lucky to have you here sharing that with us and sharing your journey. And I am sure there are so many more wonderful stories you've got in that journey that you can share, and we'll have to do it again sometime. You also brought something for our audience, and I'd love you to share with them what you brought and tell us more about it.
Yeah. So, as I said, I think the primary barrier to learning investing is just the financial mumbo jumbo that gets thrown out there.
Yeah.
And, a good investing dictionary usually makes it about 10 times worse. You go to look up one word, even on, Investopedia, as much as we all love it, right? You go to look up one word, and 20 minutes later, you've got 10 more things you don't understand. And you're even more confused about the first thing you looked up. And so I created a custom AI tool. Her
Cool.
name is Izzy, and she speaks like me. She defines terminology and investing in very simple terms that anybody can understand. And she's a
Cool.
little girly. She's got some fun, shopping and luxury brand analogies to throw out there to really make it real to you, how to use that concept, how to use that word, how to, dissect that abbreviation. And so I wanted to make her a gift for you guys. And
Cool.
hopefully this will help you get where you're trying to go financially that much faster.
I love that. Those takes it's so much work to put that together and to pull in a wealth of information like that and get it available and trustworthy. And so I'm so appreciative that you would do that. Thank you so much for coming to the show and bringing your EEI, your experience, your expertise, and your insight to the show. I'm really grateful that you're here sharing your journey and your wisdom with us. So thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been so much fun. And guys, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the show. Don't forget to comment and let Sarah know you are watching and that you're thinking about her ultimate questions that she's presented for you today. And of course, until next time, 42 is the answer. Keep searching for the ultimate question. And remember, don't panic. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.